Good morning. Again, it is an honor to be with you in this hall today, in this vibrant beach city of Bangsaen. Despite this morning heat bearing down upon us, there is something refreshing in coming together by the sea to discuss our shared responsibility for this earth we call home. For those of you who come from outside of Thailand, I think this is where we are right here. Well, the timing of this conference is very important. This is a time when human history recorded as environmental challenges are no longer distant warning, but it is becoming daily realities. I want to begin by acknowledging the respect audience of this gathering today. You are environmental engineers, professors, researchers, and innovators. You are the ones working at the front lines of technology, science, and community design. You are not just building systems, you are building futures. I stand here not as just a speaker, but as a partner who is willing to work the journey with you. Allow me to briefly share where I come from. I'm a lawyer. I have no knowledge whatsoever about science, but I have served as chairman of Bangkok Breathe Council, where we fought against air pollution to reclaim our skies. I was vice chair of the Thai Senate Standing Committees on Natural Resource and Environment. I have served as tourism minister under 3 different administrations. As vice minister for human security and currently a board member of a disaster relief at Royal Foundation. So, altogether, my mission has always been about safeguard human dignity, whether from disasters, inequality, or environmental neglect. Today, we gather under a pressing time. It is a pressing time, a green environment, and a low-carbon society. As the path to sustainable wellness for mankind, I would like to emphasize the word wellness, because that's not just about human survival or human sustainability only, but a thriving condition for people and planet alike. Well, let's acknowledge the current storm of global disruption. At the time of this address, the White House has rocked the world stage by pulling out from the Paris Climate Agreement. The decision came with rhetoric dismissing climate change as a hoax. As Asia is battling intensifying heat waves, droughts, and floods, this denial threaten not only just ecosystems, but international trust. And while that unfolds, trade wars and tariff battle led by the US have put environmental cooperation at risk. Southeast Asian manufacturers of solar panels, particularly in Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia, have been hit by sharp US tariffs. These penalties are not just economic, they disrupt our region's move toward cleaner energy. Factories now sit with vast oversupplies of solar panels that could have powered homes, schools, clinics, and hospitals. But here is where we must innovate. Instead of waiting for a change in trade policy, we can lead change here at home. Let's direct green finance to purchase these solar panels and deploy them strategically, covering canals' waters to reduce evaporation and algae, and installing them on rooftops in urban communities. Many of these rooftops belong to low-income families paying high electricity bills and has nowhere to hide from heat nor dusty air. The picture I show you here are a sample of what many countries are doing. They're not rich countries. That is being taken in Beirut in the Middle East, covering the canals running through Beirut cities. This one is what happened in India when the Indian government started to put solar panel on top of their canals, and they learned that not only that they generate electricity, they also provide shade for housewives, children who can go underneath, hiding from the heat, to bottle their water, and animals, fish, crabs can still stay without heat in the water. Imagine this. If Thailand has a solar farm that stands high across our klongs, where we call it canals, powering nearby homes and cooling the environment at the same time, creating a better breathable space for fish and people. Solar panel high above the thin roof of poor housing blocks, giving families some relief from heat, and at the same time earn some money from the people who invest, for allowing the investors to use the airspace above their neighborhood. That is climate action with social justice at its heart. As we speak of heat, let's not forget that urban temperature in cities like Bangkok and Chonburi here are reaching critical levels. We are pretty fortunate this year with rains coming pretty quickly, pretty early this year, but may not be next year. Heat is going to come sooner and harder. The elderly, therefore, the young and the poor are the first to suffer. As engineers and planners like you, we must respond by designing breathable cities, green corridors, shaded walkways, rooftop gardens, and vertical forests. Clean air must be a right, not a luxury. And let us not forget our oceans. Often enough we speak of emissions in the air, on the ground, but less about what CO2 is doing below the surface of the water. Ocean acidification caused by carbon dioxide dissolving into seawater is silently killing coral reefs, threatening biodiversity and risking the livelihoods of coastal communities, especially fishermen. Here in Bangsaen, a beach city, this threat is not abstract, it's personal. A few years ago, I visited a fisher village in the southern part of Thailand. The villagers showed me mangrove they have planted with their own bare hand after a storm wiped out. And the whole coast was just empty. Then they replanted, and they taught me that recovery is not just about aid. It's not about money. It's about local wisdom. It's about pride. And it's about care for their next generations. I see a lot of next generation here in this room. That spirit can live on in communities up north, in the north of Thailand, building check dams with bare hands also, or students in many parts, like in Rayong, organizing cleanups of beaches and riverbanks. These actions may seem small, but they echo loud. Our transition to a low-carbon society must be guided by science, of course, yes, but also by justice and compassion. We must move faster in investing in renewable, electrifying our transport, and shifting away from fossil fuels. But while we build high-tech system, we must also keep people at the center, and universities and institutions is one of the best places to start. As someone with background in tourism, I've been Minister of Tourism in 3 different administrations. Even tourism must change also. Sustainable tourism is no longer a trend. It's an imperative. If we love a destination, we must protect it. In my time as tourism minister, I saw how unmanaged growth could ruin the very beauty that tourists came to find. Now we must redesign tourism to be part of the solution. Environment degradation is not just about the planet, it is a threat to human security. Floods displace families, and droughts destroy livelihoods. I went up in Chiang Rai earlier last year. After the rainy season, nobody saw it coming when rainfall in Myanmar, not in Thailand, rainfall in Myanmar reached a level where it eroded the hillside. Mudslide happened, and the mud we see here is just knee deep. But before I was there, it was about 2-story high. It's impossible for anyone to live there, and it's happening again this year. So, as former Vice Minister for Human Security, I have seen the human face of climate failure. So it is time we connect our policies. It's a nice idea that we have people to open their booth outside so that people from different areas, from different background, from different business and different scientific knowledge can get together, walk across the hall, exchanging ideas, exchanging knowledge, discuss about future, and perhaps collaboration can happen over the hall. It's time we connect our policies, not treat climate and human development as separate. This is especially important in public health. Rising heat increased the spread of disease. Dirty air increased asthma and heart problems. This is not tomorrow's concern. It is here. It is today's hospital bill. It is today's funeral. It is today's lost potential. But yet, there is still hope. Young people across Asia and the world are rising. They are skipping school not out of laziness, but activism. They remind us that climate change is not only about the next 30 years. Rather, it's about the next 4. As engineers, you can give shape to their dreams. As professors, you can guide their minds. And as leaders, you can move from discussions to implementation. In conclusion, let us remember, the earth does not wait for politics. The ocean does not wait for trade deals, and the heat does not wait for perfect solution. Regardless of how imperfect the solution you are working on, put it on working. Make life better. We can act now. We can build a future that is not only green but also just. A society where innovation meets conclusion. A world where solar panels don't just gather around being dust in warehouse but bring light and wellness to those in unbearable heat, polluted air, and in darkness. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your engineering minds and your environmental hearts. Let's make this decade one of regeneration. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณครับ
Many thanks to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Weerasak Kowsurat, for generously sharing the valuable knowledge and experience on low carbon and sustainability with us today. The talk covered a lot of interesting keywords. The first thing, we here in this room, most of us are the front line of building the technology and leading the change to the future. And right now, we are in the critical level of the urban heat, either in the city or in suburban area, and as well as the problem from ocean acidification that destroy the coral reef. So things must change. We need to redesign the system, matching the science and the policy, and turn the discussion that might happen today into the implementation. So we have around 5 to 10 minutes for commenting and discussion. So for any participant that would like to discuss with our speaker, please raise your hand and our staff will bring the mic to you.
Thank you very, very much for a really inspiring keynote paper, Professor Weerasak. There was a lot of compassion in what you had to say about social justice and probably the most vulnerable people in society. I'm just very, very worried that the main players on the globe at the moment, and everything global becomes local eventually, don't really seem to have the ideas and sort of the drive and the leadership and the commitment of finance to deliver on the aspirations of your extremely good paper. I was just reading about the first 100 days of President Trump, for example.
I did that too.
Yeah, it was very good articles in Newsweek and that. There was really no mention whatsoever about the climate. Very, very little, very little about support for developing countries. The whole idea of Belém in November in Brazil for the COP is to get up to that 1.3 trillion commitment, up for 2030, which is only as you say, 4 or 5 years away. The problem I have is, can that commitment be made? Because we saw much more money being actually directed towards development of armaments and wars and people looking for the rights for land and the rare earth metals that we need to drive the type of robotics, artificial intelligence now. So I suppose the main question I have is as you say, we have to be hopeful, but do you really believe that the organizational structures and the international legal commitments can actually move towards delivering on the aspirations you have in your paper? Thank you.
Thank you. A very good question. I think it's after the Second World War, when the US was leading and the European was leading the fundamental ideas of how we should live together. That's why UNWTO, the United Nations, and other big organizations has been erected. And now all of a sudden, I was also at New York when there was a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the United Nations. And then we were talking about what to do next, because after 50 years of United Nations in New York, still there are a lot of war. And then, not only physical war, but also trade war. And now the new trade war has just begun. And even when people see that President Donald Trump said that he has came to an agreement with the Chinese delegation of what the trade should turn out. But he also spread out that, in parentheses, for the next 90 days, until further notice. That means we will be in this turmoil for a long time. And when tariff was put in place, it is very difficult to put it away. Sometimes it takes about 10, 15 years before you can take some of it away. Therefore, we have now entered a new era where 50 years pass, we never prepare for this. And from the 30 years experience I have been in Thai politics and working with international communities, I think there are two things that will automatically happen, whether you like it or not. One thing is stress. And when the United States feel, especially from the top, that they are declining, their power is no longer the same degree they used to have in the last 30, 40 years after the war, they start to panic and they start to attack everyone. That's one phenomenon. But another one is happening also, on the contrary, is that United States do not realize that they are pushing European Union to work with Asian people and African people to work out some type of thing and theater to work together to come up with a new solution where the world must go on with or without the join of the US. You see, and when China also be a part of this new movement, it's something that you haven't seen, at least in the last 2 centuries. But look back in history of mankind in the last 2,000 years. It has always been India civilization and the Chinese civilization that has been the inventor of most of the invention we find before the Western came around. So the 2 centuries that the Western, with big gun policies, gunship, goes around, take over territories and turn them otherwise, is now just about to be over. But the collaboration in the last 40 years between those who believe in multilateralism didn't give much hope to us that much. Why? I'm a trade lawyer. The idea of UNWTO, no, I mean the UNWTO, World Trade Organization, was originally found by the United States thinkers called the Bretton Woods. And at the very end of the day, when the paper will need to be signed in 1947, the US decided to pull out at last minute. And that's why the ITO, International Trade Organization, has to be renamed into the paper they signed itself by the name of GATT, GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and Trades. And WTO was renamed a few decades after. You see, when it was GATT, it didn't work that well until it became WTO. That means all the rest, without the US that much, decide that they want to make a new, not rules, but the new environment and ambient that member countries will respect to, and that pulls the US to come into the same game, at least for the last 15 years. So to answer directly to your question is that are we still being able to say we are hopeful that something good is going to happen? I think yes. And with people in this room, at least in this country, this is the expert of scientific part of the personnel in Thailand who come join together every single year to not only to show what they have found with the last research, but it's also time and panel that we can come together and really discuss what the question you have just raised, that what else can we do? See, the difference between what's going to with climate change, the result happening with Western Europe is very different to what's going to happen here. And we can't wait for any other research paper from outside to work for us to predict what exactly is going to happen, what is the climate resilience that we need, and what kind of adaptation investment we need to do. We can't wait for them. Because what they are facing is the collapse of AMOC, Atlantic currents, will bring them back to mini ice age. So they're going to get to be much colder in their area. We are going to be much hotter in our area. And there has not been a lot of paper I read saying anything about this area just yet. It is us who can make those paper happen, the study happen, and to help those poor people who do not have anything or knowledge to know what they need to do and what they need to ask from policy level, of how those policy makers will pledge to them of what will they do to change the regime. When people who has power do not have focus, it's open another window of opportunity for people who has focus to shout it loud, to shout it out loudly of what needs to be done here, not there. Not what needs to be done in the United States, not what needs to be done in Europe, but what needs to be done here. And it is only us only in this room who can make that happen, because we are scientists. I'm not, but you are scientists. You can recalculate, recalibrate, and make the people, I mean the big P, the people realize of what they need to shout about. And they make their local government administrator, they make their governor, they make their director generals, and they make their ministers, their government, their parliament to act accordingly. The reason I put not 15 years from now, but I said 4, is that we only have 4 years from now to get it right. Or 2030 comes and the whole scenario will change again. So with researchers, professors, innovators, business people, university administrators, you have 4 years to re-communicate. Make sure that not only your students understand what is going to happen in 4 years, it's not that important any longer to tell them what happened 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's more important to tell them what is going to happen 4 years from now, right after their graduation. It's not about job only that they are going to have to fight for. It is their environment that they have to fight for, starting right now. But the voice on the street will not be loud enough. It is the voice in the dissertation. It's the voice in the report. It's the voice in the report. Make it in local language. Make it in international language. Make the world know that what is need for this area. What are things to be done? What are the priorities to be put on? And then hope will start to happen. When lights come from the other end of the tunnel, you only see some small lights at the beginning. But as you walk towards that direction, you will see it clearer and clearer. You start to see shadows and everything else, not only dark, pitch dark. Then it's easier to communicate. My job, most of the time, is to go out and talk about something you don't even know. But to make sure that people who don't even know anything about it at least have some fundamental feeling about it and has the guts to look into details, knowledge, and comparison of what happened to different generations. And then they can get together. The most difficult part is that people don't get together. They don't communicate. And if we can do that, lots of power is going to happen. Thank you for your question. ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you, Mr. Weerasak. Please give a round of applause for our speaker.